When Kobe Bryant walked into Cedars-Sinai Medical Center at 11:47 on a Tuesday night in February, he was not supposed to be there. He had been visiting a teammate's father on the fourth floor earlier that evening and had left, and then turned around in the parking structure because he had forgotten to leave the envelope he had brought. And when he came back through the side entrance and walked down the corridor toward the elevator, he passed the family waiting room on the second floor and saw through the small window in the door a woman sitting alone in the corner of the room in her scrubs with her face in her hands. The room was empty except for her, and the lights were that particular hospital fluorescent that makes everything look like it is happening slightly outside of time, and she was not making any sound that he could hear through the glass. But the shape of her was the shape of someone who had been holding something for a very long time and had finally set it down. The question was never whether Diana Cruz deserved someone to stop and ask if she was all right. She had been a nurse for 14 years and had spent those years in pediatric oncology, which is the specific work of sitting with families through the hardest thing there is, and the question of what that costs a person over 14 years, and whether anyone had ever asked her that question was one Kobe did not know the answer to, but found himself needing to ask nobody. Not Diana, not her charge nurse, not Kobe himself, entirely knew what walking through that waiting room door was going to mean. When he reached for the handle and opened it, he almost kept walking. This was the honest truth. He had the envelope in his hand, and the elevator was 30 feet away, and it was almost midnight, and he had practice at 7, and he had a full day already mapped in his head, and none of that map included a family waiting room on the second floor. But the shape of her through the glass was specific. He pushed the door open. The room had chairs along 3 walls and a small table with old magazines, and a window that looked out at a parking structure. And Diana Cruz was in the far corner, in the last chair, with her face in her hands and her feet flat on the floor. And her scrubs had the particular wear of someone 12 hours into a shift. She did not look up when he came in. He sat down 2 chairs away from her, not close enough to intrude, and not far enough to pretend he had not seen her. And he set the envelope on the chair beside him and said nothing. After a moment, she lowered her hands and looked at him. She was 38 years old, with dark hair pulled back, and the kind of face that is not beautiful in any conventional way, but is completely alive. And she looked at him with red-rimmed eyes that had been crying for a while, and then recognition arrived, and she looked away. Immediately, the way people do when they are embarrassed to be seen in a state they would not have chosen. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'll go somewhere else." "You don't have to," Kobe said. She looked back at him. "This is the family room," she said. "I know." Kobe said, "I'm not family. I just came back to drop something off, and I saw you through the window." She was quiet. He let the silence exist. After a moment, she said, "It was a child," and then she stopped. Kobe said nothing. She looked at the window that faced the parking structure. 9 years old, she said. And then she pressed her lips together and looked at the ceiling, the way people do when they are trying to use physics to keep tears from falling. "I'm sorry," Kobe said, and he meant it with everything he had. She nodded. "How long have you been doing this?" he asked. 14 years, she said. "Pediatric oncology," he said. She looked at him. "Yes," she said. "How did you—" "The scrubs," Kobe said. "There's a specific way people carry themselves when the work, is that weight. She looked at him with an expression he couldn't entirely read. Do you ever get used to it? He asked. No, she said. And then she said, but you learn to hold it differently. And she paused and said, or you think you do. And then a night like tonight. And she stopped again. Kobe nodded. They sat in the fluorescent room for 40 minutes. Diana talked, and Kobe listened, the way he listened to coaches. Which was completely. He asked questions. Occasionally, not to redirect, but to understand. And she answered them. And as she talked, something in her shoulders changed very slightly. The way a person changes when they have been carrying something alone, and someone has finally picked up the other end. She talked about the family from tonight, and about another family from 3 years ago that she still thought about, and about the specific exhaustion of being the person who stays calm, so other people can fall apart, and about her daughter, who was 7, and who Diana tried very hard not to think about at work, because thinking about your own child while you are caring for someone else's was a door you could not afford to open during a shift. Kobe sat with that, your daughter. Kobe said, what's she like? Diana looked at him with a slight surprise, as if she had not expected the conversation to turn toward something living. She's fierce, she said, and then almost smiled. She has opinions about everything, and she is not shy about sharing them. She sounds like someone who knows what she thinks, Kobe said. She knows what everyone should think, Diana said. And they both laughed, and the laugh was small, but it was real. And it changed something in the room before he left. Kobe said, I want to do something, and Diana said, you don't have to. And Kobe said, I know. And Diana said, really? I'm fine. And Kobe said, I believe you and I still want to do something. Diana looked at him steadily for a moment. What he said, I want your unit to have whatever it needs that it doesn't currently have. Kobe said, not equipment. The hospital handles equipment. I mean, the things that don't get budgeted for the things that make the work bearable. The things that remind the people doing the hardest work that someone sees them doing. Diana was quiet. She looked at the old magazines on the table. There's a family room on the floor, she said, that the parents use when they need to step away. And she paused. It's not a good room. It has the chairs and the fluorescent lights. Like this one. And the parents sit in there for hours, and it should be better than it is. What would better look like? Kobe said she described it carefully, the way a person describes something they have thought about for a long time, but never said out loud to anyone who could actually do anything about it. Softer lighting, she said, and chairs that are actually comfortable, and something on the walls that isn't a bulletin board. And a coffee maker that works, because the one in there is broken and has been broken for 8 months, and nobody has replaced it. And she stopped and said, I know that sounds small. It doesn't sound small. Kobe said his foundation director oversaw the renovation of the family room. On the pediatric oncology floor, over the following 6 weeks, it was done on a weekend. So the unit was not disrupted. And when the nursing staff arrived on Monday morning, the room had warm lighting and proper furniture, and something on the walls that was not a bulletin board, and a coffee maker that worked, and a small plaque near the door that said, this room is for the families and the people who care for them. In equal measure, Diana walked in that Monday morning and stood in the room for a moment. And her charge nurse came in behind her and said, did you know about this? And Diana said yes. And her charge nurse said how? And Diana said, I met someone in the waiting room. And her charge nurse looked at her and said the waiting room on 2, and Diana said yes. And her charge nurse said at midnight, and Diana said yes. And her charge nurse looked at the room and then back at Diana and said, okay then. The coffee maker was the thing the staff talked about most in the first weeks. Not because it was the most significant change, but because it was the most daily one. The room was used for serious things, but the coffee maker was used every shift by every nurse, and every time someone used it, they felt the specific small dignity of a thing that works when you need it to. And that had been provided by someone who understood that the small daily things are not small. Diana called her daughter that Monday evening after her shift, and her daughter answered and said, Mom, you sound different. And Diana said, I had a good day. And her daughter said, what happened? And Diana said, I'll tell you when I get home. And her daughter said, tell me now. And Diana said, I'll tell you when I get home. And her daughter made a sound that conveyed her complete position on delayed information. And Diana smiled. Driving home through the Los Angeles evening, and thought about a man sitting 2 chairs away in a fluorescent room at midnight, asking questions and listening to the answers. And she thought about what it meant to be seen in a moment you would not have chosen to be seen in, and to find that being seen in that moment was not diminishing, but the opposite. The plaque near the door of the renovated family room was read by every nurse on the unit. Within the first week, and talked about in the way that small, significant things get talked about, not loudly, but repeatedly. The way people mention a thing that confirmed something they already believed the charge. Nurse whose name was Robert, and who had been running the unit for 11 years, told the hospital administrator, when she asked about the renovation, that it had changed the floor, not dramatically, but genuinely. He said, the staff use the room differently now. And she asked how. And he said, like, they're allowed to. And she wrote that down because it was the kind of thing that belonged in a report, and also the kind of thing that was larger than any report could hold. Diana applied for a mentorship role with the hospital's nursing residency program. 6 months after that, Tuesday night, she had been thinking about it for 2 years and had not applied because she did not feel she had anything organized enough to offer. And after that night, she thought about what Kobe had said in the waiting room about the way people carry themselves when the work is that weight. And she thought that was exactly what the residents needed. Someone who understood the weight and could help them learn to carry it. And she applied, and she got it. And she met with 3 first-year nurses every other week in the renovated family room because the lighting was right, and the chairs were comfortable, and the coffee maker worked. Her daughter turned 8 that spring, and Diana took her to a Lakers game for her birthday because her daughter had decided she was a basketball fan. The way 7-year-olds decide things, which is completely and without prior indication, Diana sat in the stands watching her daughter watch the game with the total absorption of a child who has found something new to love. And she thought about a waiting room, and a man who had sat 2 chairs away and asked what her daughter was like. And she thought, fierce, she had said. And she had been right, and she was right about that. Every single day, Robert the charge nurse retired the following year. And at his retirement dinner, he talked about the unit and the families and the years. And near the end, he mentioned the family room. And he said, I want to say something about that room because I think it matters. He said the work we do here is the hardest work there is. And for years, we did it in a building that did not always remember that we were doing it. And then one night, somebody stopped and asked, And what came after that was a room with good chairs and a coffee maker that works, and a plaque on the wall that says, "This room is for the families and the people who care for them in equal measure." And he said, "I read that plaque every shift for a year, and every time I read it, I felt something I can only describe as being correctly located, which is to say, being in the right place, understood to be doing the right thing. And I want whoever made that happen to know that it mattered more than they probably know." If this story moved, you drop your city and country in the comments below. And if you believe that the people who hold others together deserve to be held, please hit that like button and subscribe. Click the video on your screen right now for another story that will stay with you.